By 1919, Brother Adam had been appointed head of the Buckfast apiary. Clearly, his priority was to rebuild the colonies. But how and with what? He immersed himself in study. He wanted to understand the principles of selection, whether artificial or natural. Specifically, how could the apparent acarine resistance of the Italian strain be combined with useful characteristics of other bees? In Germany, Ludwig Armbruster, the bee geneticist, had been working on the application of Mendelian law. He'd discovered why Gregor Mendel, the Austrian monk who'd first described the principles of heredity, couldn't get them to work with the honeybee. Driving on Dartmoor, it struck Brother Adam how he could succeed where Mendel had failed. The answer was to establish a breeding station up here, totally isolated from other bees. A farmer rented him this site. It was 1925, the start of a breeding program that was to reshape the honeybee.
Pleasure. Walk on, old man. Walk on, walk on.
What Mendel never knew was that the queen flies several kilometers from the hive and might mate with a drone from a foreign colony. It made nonsense of supervised breeding. At this spot, Brother Adam would have no such problems. The priority was to breed from his surviving acarine-resistant Italian crosses. To ensure that they mated with stock of his choice, Brother Adam put selected drone colonies in the isolation apiary. These drones would be the only mates a queen would find on Dartmoor. At last, the breeder, rather than nature, was in charge.
Nature breeds for survival under inner conditions, where our primary aim, of course, is the performance, the production of honey.
A dab of royal jelly is placed in each of these cups. Then, from a section of brood comb, fresh from the hive, a larva is teased. It's popped into a cup. The process is called grafting. Larvae are being artificially induced to turn into queens. Again, Brother Adam is overriding nature. The idea is to capitalize on a good cross and from it propagate whole batches of queens, either for further breeding or for sale. This hive will incubate the grafted larvae. Smoke quietens the occupants. A frame of 60 potential queens is slotted into the center of the brood chamber. Just as in nature, the host workers inside will feed and nurse the developing queen larvae. The artificial cells will be coated and sealed with wax. Meanwhile, workers shaken out to make way for the grafts climb back into the hive. A little syrup to supplement the colony's food stores, and the grafts begin to cook. "12 days later, in early June, the grafted queens are moved the 20 kilometers from the Abbey's home apiary to the Dartmoor breeding station. Tricky work. The transporter hive must be handled like porcelain. Brother Adam and his team are to distribute the grafts among the station's 130 hives, all of whose queens have been previously removed. And here's our frame of 60 cells. The host workers have done their job. This rack of cells is indistinguishable from nature's efforts. Every hive in the station is divided into 4 sections, tiny colonies called nuclei. One queen cell is introduced to each nucleus. In 24 hours, the queens will emerge. After 6 days, they'll fly and mate. Now it's late August, and time to see how the grafted queens have done. Comb by comb, Brother Adam examines each nucleus. He's looking for the queen and the sort of workers she spawned. How is she laying? Does the brood look good? Is there disease? And the bottom line, what's the honey like? Fritz Schauf, yet another volunteer from Germany, is gently chastised for holding combs horizontally instead of vertically. The queen could tumble off.
Besteht Gefahr, wenn sie unter ist, dass sie wegfällt. Das kommt uns oft vor.
Most queens will overwinter in these nuclei. In spring, they'll be transferred to production hives, topping up the vigor of colonies whose job is the all-important business of honey gathering. Others, like this queen, go immediately for export. A Buckfast queen has a worldwide market. Her wings are clipped to prevent her flying in case of swarm or accident. Then she's crated up for foreign climes, slipped into a mailing cage with a dozen workers and some candy. These, then, are the tools and techniques which over half a century have turned a simple Italian cross into the world-beating Buckfast super bee.
We have reached a point where we are really satisfied compared to the old English bee.
But we still have to learn how the old master found and fixed the Buckfast qualities, a genetic cocktail with more ingredients than Heinz have varieties.
57.
It had been a good season for Brother Adam. After 3 years of atrocious weather and little honey, the Buckfast bees had yielded a surplus, a golden harvest. His new book was selling. The world wanted his breeding stock. There was honey from lowland clover and upland heather. The Benedictine ethos of self-sufficiency has governed Brother Adam's approach to bee breeding. External characteristics were for academics. His mission was to improve economic performance. And there was a personal spur. No honey meant no money. Then who'd pay him to breed a better honeybee? Since his quest for the perfect honeybee began, nowhere has been visited more often by Brother Adam than his native heath in Germany. And no one has offered stauncher support than Franz Fehrenbach, apple grower, bee breeder.
(1960) hat Bruder Adam in Kassel einen Vortrag gehalten über seine Imkerei. Und diesen Vortrag habe ich in der Bienenzeitung gelesen, ungekürzt, und habe gleich gewusst, das ist das Beste, das ist das, was ich suche. Und habe dann sofort versucht, ihn nicht nur zu verstehen, sondern auch zu kopieren. Also das alles genau so zu machen, wie er es macht.
Aber da ist schon nirgends drauf.
Da weißt du, die hocken jetzt schon zusammen, aber wir gucken halt nochmal.
What first excited Fehrenbach were the hives Brother Adam used at Buckfast in England. Like those Fehrenbach uses now, they were of the American Dadant design. A large brood chamber, the bee-rearing area, meant the prolific Buckfast bee could maximize its offspring. Brood chambers in traditional German hives couldn't accommodate such vigor. But it wasn't until Fehrenbach started using Buckfast stock that he fully appreciated the qualities of the bee itself. Till then, he'd been a hobbyist, working with the German Carniolan and a bad-tempered mongrel strain from the Black Forest. The docile Buckfast was a revelation. Today, Fehrenbach has gone commercial, a thriving business entirely based on the Buckfast line, of which he's Germany's proudest advocate.
Ja, die Buckfastbiene, die ist schwarmträge, viel schwarmträger wie andere Rassen und brutfreudig und macht dadurch oder schafft dadurch starke Völker. Und es ist eine Tatsache, dass die stärksten Völker am meisten Honig bringen.
From his 300 colonies, Fehrenbach is averaging 10 tons of honey a year, twice as much as sister bees are yielding at Buckfast. But this is the Lake Constant region of southern Germany, a more profuse environment. Apples, cherries, rape, raspberries, dew honey from the woods. Here, the Buckfast can realize its potential. To Fehrenbach, it's a bee with a double-edged advantage.
Bist du schon mal ganz durch? Aber im Vergleich zu allen anderen Rassen, mit denen ich schon gearbeitet habe, und das sind fast alle, die erreichbar waren hier bei uns, ist die beides. Die bringt mehr Honig und bringt ihn mit weniger Arbeit.
As the Vatican is to the Catholic Church, so Buckfast Abbey is to apiculture. For an international network of agents and distributors like Fehrenbach, Buckfast means bees rather than Benedictines. From the cell he's occupied in this outbuilding since 1919, Brother Adam has masterminded a miracle. He's turned a monastic sideline into a worldwide enterprise, the creation and marketing of a super bee.
I've always maintained that the Buckfast bee must do its own propaganda. If it cannot do that, well, the sooner people forget about it, the better.
Brother Adam's ambition to breed a perfect honeybee began some 70 years ago when he inherited the Buckfast apiary. Acarine disease had wiped out all but a handful of resistant Italian crossbreds. Times were hard, but he managed to interbreed the Italian crosses with imported strains to produce a useful line. Then came the Second World War.
There was a low mist hanging in the valley, and the military had got targets on the hillside. Their targets were hidden by the mist, and the beehives were in view, and of course they assumed that the white beehives was their targets that they were firing at. Brother Adam and myself were there checking the colonies, and we were just on the point of starting, and machine gun fire rattled across the top of the van, and they were striking the hives on the hillside. The bullets were actually going through the hives. And Brother Adam was very concerned about this, and he didn't seem a bit worried. He just simply turned round and walked up towards where the gunfire was coming from. And the next thing I just heard the gunfire stop, and there was an officer on the hillside waving his arms. And when we came back and had a look at the hives, there was quite a number of hives had bullet holes through them. And there was also another beekeeper, Brigadier General Gompertz, also had some bees alongside of ours, and he's got shot up more than ours. But being a military man, this was very good for Brother Adam, because Brother Adam complained bitterly to him, and this man got straight on to the War Office, and they got compensation from the War Office for the damage to the hives and the loss of the queens.